everybody here, and welcome back to another YouTube video. For today's video, I've gotten so many requests to do this, especially recently. I'm going to be doing a notepad making tutorial. I've only recently started doing these ever since about the middle of June or something, and a lot of people have asked me how I make them because a lot of people don't know how to make them without manufacturers, and it's actually a really simple process. That way you guys can make your own notepads at home. Or you can just see more insight into how I make them and how much time it takes and all the materials, etc. So without further ado, let's get into it. So to begin, let's go over all the materials you're going to need for this project. The first thing you're going to need is a design. I just designed mine on Procreate or any other app. You can make these notepads any size you want. I typically make mine 3 by 3 inches, that way they're nice and square and just, easier to use and make. There are two different ways I've done this in the past and present. You can either have Cricut Design Space and use a Cricut machine or hand cut them using a paper cutter. I've only recently started using my Cricut machine and it makes things a lot easier. So if you do have a Cricut machine, this will be easier for you. And if you don't, there is a way you can do it with just, cutting them by hand. The next thing you'll need is a printer to print your paper on. I just use a normal printer paper. You can buy more higher quality paper that won't bleed through, but I just use printer paper because it's simple, it's cheap, and I think it works just as good as any other paper would. The next thing you're gonna need is cardstock paper, or craft paper, whatever you want to call it. It basically usually looks like this. You can get it at Walmart or any other craft store just for the backing of your notepad, so it keeps everything firm and it just makes things a lot easier to carry or write on. The next thing you'll need is glue. You can use any kind of glue. I just use this very used bottle of Elmer's school glue. It really doesn't matter, just as long as it sticks. I wouldn't recommend using super glue in case you make a mistake, but I've only ever used Elmer's school glue. It's really simple. You can buy it at a Dollar General, Walmart, anywhere that sells glue, I guess. The next thing you need is a paintbrush. This brush is just kind of old, no one really uses it, but I recommend it having quite a smaller tip just so you can glue together the ends of your notepads. Just a reminder, we are making notepads, not sticky notes. There's a difference, and notepads are the kind that you can rip off at the top, and sticky notes are actually like sticky by themselves, so we're making notepads. So yeah, basically you can use any old paintbrush. It doesn't really have to be fancy, it can be really cheap. Of course, I'm sure you can buy these paintbrushes anywhere you can get your glue, at any basic store. So that is about it for all we need: paper, paintbrush, glue, Cricut machine, or paper cutter, craft paper, and I also use a pin whenever I cut out my craft paper, just so I can, kind of trace a square and anything else I might need to write on. Also, another thing I forgot to mention is binder clips. You're gonna need these to help align your notepad before gluing. So yeah, that is all you need. I think we can go and get started making this notepad. I've actually never timed myself in how long it takes me to make one of these, and it is currently 5:55 p.m. So we'll see when I finish. So for today's video, I'll be making a pumpkin to-do notepad, which is the newest notepad in my shop. Super cute for the fall season, and I thought it'd be a great example for today's video. So this is what my project looks like on Cricut Design Space. I measured one sheet to a little bit less than 3 inches, and I just duplicated that 5 times. So there's a total of 6 sheets that I'll be printing off per sheet. You don't really need to put them in a special format. You can if you want it to look better. I just kind of put them randomly. It doesn't really matter how it looks. And then the Cricut Design Space will convert that to a nice looking So this is what the nicer version looks like. It gives you an example of it on your Cricut mat. As you can tell, there's 6 sheets that I'll print off on one piece of paper. I will print this off right now, and I will make 5 copies, so that equals 30 sheets, and it will be a 30-sheet notepad. It's also very important when using Cricut Design Space to use your system dialog. That way you can adjust your preferences to your printer, and also make sure to have the right paper type. And I try and put my quality on the highest quality, that way no lines are seen on the pages and it just makes the colors look better. And I also set my copies to 5, and I'm gonna go ahead and print this. So now that is printing. Like I said, I printed 5 sheets, so that'll equal 30. And also I use an Epson printer. I don't really think it matters what printer you have. I know my printer is a little bit older and it still works just as well, so any printer will do. I just use my house printer. If you want to buy one specifically for that purpose, you can go ahead and do that, whatever you please. And yeah, that is going to print right now. Okay, so I'm back. I just got my printed sheets off. This is basically what it looks like. There's 5, and this is what it looks like before cutting. As you can tell, there's a little bit of space in between each just to have a little bit of a margin. So now I'm gonna get my Cricut out, put one of these on a mat at a time, and we can begin cutting. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the mat. I know my mat is dirty. I will have a mat cleaning tutorial at the end of this video, so stay tuned. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. I'm about to put it in my Cricut and begin cutting. Okay, so real quick before I begin, whenever you're using paper like this, I put my machine on the vinyl setting, just make sure that it cuts all the way through. And also I'm putting my Cricut on fast mode just so that everything just gets done faster and saves time. So let's begin cutting. Okay, so it just cut, and now I'm gonna try and make a satisfying little peel off. This is pretty much what one of the sheets looks like. I'm just gonna repeat this exact same process 4 more times and cut out the rest of the sheets, and then we'll move on to the next step. I'm on the last sheet, finally. Okay, so I have cut out all the sheets, all 5 of them, so that equals 30 separate sheets. For the next and rest of the process, you will not need any more devices or electronic anything. And now I took out 1 sheet of my craft paper, and I'm going to take out 1 sheet for my to-do, measure the outside around it, and cut a 3x3 square out of craft paper for the backing of the notepad. So this is pretty much what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see from the lighting, but this is like my dotted line around the outside for me to cut using my scissors. You can use any scissors you want. This is also what you might use a pen for. I just use it to trace the outside, and now I'm gonna cut that out for the backing. Okay, so update, I put the backing and combined that with all of my notepad sheets. I bought these binder clips at, I'm not quite sure where, but I'm sure you can find them at like a Dollar General. I actually think I bought them at like a Walmart. Anyways, but I used 2 of the mini ones and just used it to hold the top together. I kind of aligned it by hand, just to make sure that everything's pretty smooth on both sides. This is actually one of my better notepads because sometimes my Cricut will mess up the cutting, but it actually turned out pretty smoothly, and I think everything went pretty good this time around, so that's good. Also, another thing, while your Cricut is cutting, you can take a sheet and trace out the backing while you're doing that to save time. I just did it separately because why not? Just want to mention that in case you're a multitasker and wanted to get more stuff done, you can do that too. So moving on to the next step is the gluing process. I like to press my notepads down while I'm gluing to hold them in place. A lot of people think you need a fancy press that you can buy. You really don't. What I use is books. We just have a lot of big books that no one uses anymore in our house. I'll show you guys in a second, but I stack about 6 of these to make a press. Just the weight of them will press the notepad down in case there was any bumps or curves, and make everything nice and flat, which is very important. And I will show you guys what my setup looks like right now. Okay, so this is what my setup looks like. I know it kind of looks like a mess, but I used all these books that I just found. They don't have to be like a particular kind. These are just random books. Anyway, so I put one at the bottom just to kind of elevate the notepad so I can see it better. I still have the binder clips on it, and as you can tell, I left just a little bit outside the edge so that it'll be easier to glue. I put the rest of my books on top just for the weight, and while I'm gluing, it will press the notepad down to make it nice and flat. And it's really simple, and it's a lot easier than purchasing a fancy press just because it does the same amount of work, and it's just a lot easier to get the materials for. So now I'm gonna take my binder clips off and we can start gluing. So let's talk about glue. So like I said, I'm using my Elmer's school glue, and this is also where your paintbrush comes in hand. I just use a scrap piece of paper from my cuttings, you know, nothing important, just like a piece of paper that I'm not gonna use. And I put some glue on it, kind of like a palette. I put my paintbrush in it, get some glue on it, and I want to spread a very thin layer on the very outside of the notepad where all the sheets will meet, and I will glue them together. It's very important to do thin layers because you can do either 4, 6, or 8, depending on, you know, how much stability you want in the notepad, but you want to do very thin layers, that way they each dry fast, and it'll just help the notepad stick together a lot easier than doing like 2 thick layers, which just won't work. So I think I'm gonna do about 4 layers on today's notepad just for the sake of time, and later on I can add more if I want. But we're gonna do thin layers of glue, and we want to wait for each layer to completely dry before putting on another layer of glue. And also on this piece of paper at the top, I usually like to keep track of my layers, that way I know how many are on there, and it just helps me remember. So yeah, let's start gluing. So just gonna show you guys what my setup looks like right now. I'm kind of like kneeling on the floor, but this is my little paper that I use for layers. As you can see, I just put my glue on it just to hold it, and I'll mark my layers as I go on. Here's my paintbrush, just kind of using it to dab in there a little bit. I've already put the first layer on. It hasn't dried yet because I just now put it on, and I'm just getting an even layer of glue on the entire top. You don't want it on top or really on the sides. You can do a little bit. You want to also make sure that you include the bagging whenever you do this so that everything is nice and connected. So this is what layer 1 looks like. Just waiting for that to dry, and I will wait for each to dry and do this a total of 4 layers. While I'm waiting for that to dry, which can be about 5 to 7 minutes, I like to wash out my paintbrush just so that the glue that is left over on it doesn't dry it out and make it really hard, and it'll keep it nice and fluffy to reach all the crevices on the notepad of the pieces of paper that we need. So I'm going to wash this out and dry it, and then it'll be ready for the next layer. Also, just like I said, it's important to wait for each layer to completely dry. That way the glue is for sure ready for the next layer. You can like touch your finger over time to see how dry it is. Another thing while you're waiting in between layers, because it can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, you can do other business stuff, or play on your phone, make some reels, etc. It's kind of nice whenever you're bored and you're making a notepad, you can do other stuff in between layers. It's just kind of a nice way to pass time. And I also washed and dried my paintbrush, so it's ready for the next layer. Yeah, and we're just gonna do this 3 more times, and I will be back to you guys then. My glue is dry, so I'm gonna add the second layer. So my last layer of glue is almost done, and I want to show you guys this new thing I have for my notepads. It's basically an outside wrapping, and it goes around, and it just makes it a lot cuter whenever the person receives their package. And like I said, it just basically goes around the notepad. I made this one only for the pumpkin notepad. As you can tell, it says pumpkin notepad. I just thought it was a cute little add-on, and it's totally optional. If you guys don't want to do this, you absolutely do not have to, but I've just been adding that onto my new pumpkin notepads, and I just think it gives it a nice little touch. So my notepad is officially dried. This is what the finished product looks like. Here's the back. It does stick out a little bit on the end, but that's okay. Anyway, so this is what it looks like, the finished product. I'm gonna add the wrapping around it. So this is what the finished notepad looks like. Here's it kind of in detail. As you can see, the little pumpkins, the wrapping, the to-do, everything is done. I really am happy with how it came out. And as always, you guys can shop this in my Etsy shop now. Link will be in the description. I totally forgot to record me talking, so here's voiceover Emily and the Cricut mat cleaning tutorial. So first, I just kind of laid out my mat. I got some Dawn soap, just any kind of soap, I prefer Dawn, and sprinkle it all over, kind of like that. Then I just have like a dishwashing brush, rinsing that out with water, and I'm going to spread that soap around, make it all nice and sudsy, kind of, as you can tell. Then I'm just going to take it back over to my sink, rinse it out, kind of scrub it while you're doing that. Take it, kind of shake it out, and then you can put it back on a little towel just to kind of dry it off and pat it dry. I find that it works best rather than dragging a towel up and down. I think just patting works better, and that's pretty much it. Another thing I forgot to record is that I just kind of cover it with a towel and leave it overnight. I find that it just helps it dry overnight, and then the next day you come and check it and it works as good as new. It's nice and sticky and ready to go for your next project. And that's it for the Cricut mat cleaning tutorial. Okay, so that is about it for today's video. I hope you guys learned something. So many people have been asking for a tutorial on how I make my notepads, and now you guys can make some at home. Just takes a few supplies. Also for the wrapping, I just secured it with some tape, which I forgot to mention earlier. Anyways, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and comment any other questions you guys have, and I'll answer them. Follow me on Instagram, shop my Etsy shop with all the products I show on my channel. And all my other socials will be in the description. Have a great day. As always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.